Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Do you think the mind to muscle connection is real, or are powerlifters crazy? I feel like this is a trick question. What sane person says, I want to put 600 pounds on my back and squat that? Right? Is this a trick question, dude? Do you know any powerlifters? Powerlifters are, as a demographic, crazy. Especially serious powerlifters. Go hang out at some meets. Powerlifters are actually a lot nicer than you would expect. But as a demographic, we're a little bit off. No sane person says, I want to put 600 or 700 pounds on top of my back and squat that. Okay, I don't know where you're going there. Now, we're to the point. Mind muscle connections is associated with bodybuilders, not powerlifters. What are you talking about? And we know bodybuilders are crazy. They're the most dysfunctional individuals I've ever met in the lifting world. Is a demographic. The biggest group of people with major insecurities, body image disorders, eating disorders, drug addiction, narcissistic personality disorders, everything. It runs the gambit. They're crazy too. They're crazier than powerlifters. But what does the data say? Well, the data says the mind-muscle connection is real. It's been studied. Is it very powerful, and is it something you should be focusing on all the time? No. But it's real. It's measurable. It's quantifiable with an EMG. Okay? It's quantifiable. That means on big exercises, if you focus on one muscle more than another and focus on squeezing it and contracting it harder, it does activate a little bit more. Okay? Now, that's been found to be true in a lab. It's been studied. Certainly, if we can measure it, it's probably real, and we can measure it. Yeah, it does matter a little bit, a few percent. Compensatory acceleration beats it, though. Like in the same studies, it gives a larger response. So just exploding as hard as you can with good form is actually even stronger, slightly stronger than the mind-muscle connection. But it doesn't invalidate the mind-muscle connection. It's real. It's been measured. It's certainly been measured. So what does that tell you? I don't know, maybe on smaller exercises? Because bigger exercises, we know pushing hard trumps the mind-muscle connection. Small movements, though, because, well, we do see some extra activation on the EMG, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. You know, when you're doing your rear delts or you're doing a bicep curl, right? A hamstring curl. You know, focusing on that muscle and squeezing it a bit harder. Probably not a bad idea. It's probably not a bad idea. The data that's measured, it says, hey, it may give you a little bit more muscle activation. Does more muscle activation always mean more growth? No. But it might. And you're not losing anything by doing it. Right? There's nothing lost by doing so. So go ahead and do it. Not a problem. But are powerlifters crazy? Hell yes. Next question. Hello, coach. Will the front squat help build a bigger sumo deadlift? Thanks. I'm not even following your logic here. Okay, there are power lifters who have in certain phases when they're training for a push-pull where they're not going to squat, do a front squat. Why? Front squat's easier. Doesn't beat you up as much because you're not using as much weight. And it works the upper back a little bit more. It might carry over a little bit better during a conventional deadlift specialization phase. Now, we could argue for or against that all day long. Just saying there are some lifters who believe in that and do use it and do well with their pulls. The sumo deadlift is a different beast. Can you front squat with a sumo stance? That would be the question. Right? That would be the question. Can you front squat with a sumo stance all the way out that wide? If not, then no. Why would it help you at all? What do we say in one of the other Q&As? Wide carries over to narrow. Narrow doesn't carry over to wide. If you're narrow stance front squatting, don't expect it to do a lot. Now, people say, well, what about the upper back involvement? Well, upper back isn't as often the limiting factor on a sumo deadlift as your lower body is. And do you have a front squat harness? Then you shouldn't be using front squat as a powerlifting tool, right? Front squat without a harness is an Olympic lifting tool. It's great for helping with your clean. Right? There's carryover to your clean, your power clean, or your full clean, right? Safety bar is when you want to build a little bit more upper back on a squat. Well, how do we get carryover to the sumo though? Wide stance box squat. So if you wanted a squat that would help build your sumo the most, wide stance box squatting with a safety squat bar. I think that would give you the best carryover. Right? Any disagreement there? Think about the biomechanics and the muscles involved. It's not just about movement carryover. If we want to talk about movement carryover, yeah, the box is better. Box squatting all the way. Right, a wide stance box squat is very similar to a sumo deadlift. But let's come over to hypertrophy. How do you get better at a lift? You build all the muscles involved with that lift. Okay? Build the muscles involved with that lift. You need a wide stance squat. So if you wanted a squat variation that has the specific, most specificity to your sumo deadlift, it would be a wide stance box squat. So again, we're dead stop. The safety squat bar, because it pulls you forward more like a deadlift does. There's your solution. Front squat, not so much. Now, the argument could be made, a wide stance front squat in a harness on a box. Okay. Maybe, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But then again, so will a normal box squat. That'll help with your sumo also. Just in case you hadn't realized that. All right? Get your wide stance box squat up to 500 pounds and then see what happens to your sumo deadlift. It's probably going to go up. It's direct carryover. All right, next question, and possibly last question of the week. We'll see how much time we have. What's your opinion on barbell hack squats? I'm going to assume you just mean the hack lift, whatever. I think this is where you put straps on and you deadlift the weight behind you, because you kind of have to squat that up. What's my opinion on it? I don't know. What's the point? What are you trying to do with it? I mean, like with every other lift, it's a question of what are you trying to do? Is this an alternative max effort exercise for someone who has straps and doesn't have a lot of equipment? Maybe. Right? You could certainly use it. You know, people will say, well, if you don't think a lift is a great training tool, why would you max on it? We max on the lifts that aren't great training tools. We do that all the time, right? Isn't that how we do max effort work? We pick tons of lifts that you would never want to train for reps. Terrible stimulus to fatigue ratios, axial loading issues, beat your joints up. A lot of the lifts that we would do max effort work on are not ideal for training. They're fine for maxing. You could use it as a 1 rep max. And you know why? Because a 1 rep max is a 1 rep max. It's a big heavy lift. You're straining with the lower body. Okay? No problem if you wanted to work it into your max effort rotation. That's fine. You'll need straps. You'll need straps to do it. And it's not necessarily the safest lift you can do in the world as far as shoulders, because you are going to put more weight. You're going to do a lot more weight on it than you're going to do on a deadlift. Just be aware there could be some shoulder issues as a result of it. But that aside, it would be fine in a max effort rotation if that's really what you wanted to do. I could take it or leave it. I think it would be fine there, though. Right? Falls within the criteria of what we look for in max effort lifts. Would I use it as a training tool to do rep work on? No. Why would you do that? It beats you up, is a terrible stimulus to fatigue ratio, worse than the conventional deadlift. We already know the conventional deadlift, we run into programming issues as an actual volume tool, a training tool, right? What's a training tool? Something we use to build strength, not to demonstrate strength. Conventional deadlift is a phenomenal demonstration of strength. Not necessarily the best strength or muscle builder. Not saying it's horrific, but there's a lot of better movements for the same things. This has a worse stimulus to fatigue ratio than the conventional deadlift. You have to use more weight to get the same training effect. and it'll beat you up. It will beat your shoulders up. It will beat your recovery up on the actual loading. So I would say as a training tool for any sort of volume work, probably not. Probably not. I wouldn't recommend it at all. It'd be a bad choice. Could you max on it as part of your max effort rotation if you wanted to? Yeah, it would be perfectly acceptable. I see no issue there. Just like I don't see any issue with someone doing a dead pin squat for max effort work. I would never do reps on it. Max effort exercise, perfectly fine. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't think about it a lot. I don't think it's a particularly useful or great lift. But you could use it for max work, and it wouldn't be better or worse than a lot of other choices. Just another tool. Just another lift to test our strength on. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.